다 나타리 버지니아 롭달라 용네 갑다시 제더니 타 니바예 나바탄 츠포 양케르 덴디 코르쿠션 와라 데네 베 카프루침보 쇼소 데네 가츠 또 소소 무예 당에 테랑 샤파데 가츠 보거드니 곰바가 나라 요피 데네 소소 무이 스트로징 거드니 소소 무예 티톨라 갑다 카시 셰게 데나 가츠 gomba gatini strorging gatini loso gatini muir tela shirtang chesa ni shana te muir ni de samgdo tini tangbo te tini ta ngacho soso rang yarje ta ya tini ga ton la rendu tena rang yarje ta was ji ta ngacho nangchu nani shana shog ni ni sha kyo rang yarje ta was ya te chigdi ka re jena soso rang ga shirp yarje ta ya te re ngacho nangchu go jena mugdang nawa nayang chamma menzini da ngarang cho mugre naware nare teni lidang ye kyangzi changma teni jiktin de ngacho mug kan thong thap ko mare je jiktin de ngacho teni wangbo cho yakbo za ha ko thap ko mare tena jiktin de yang tak ba chi go na teni ngacho mugna na chi lin de pi teni sherb z go re te yo go re te yo na teni ngacho jiktin de yakbo z teni ha go re so so mo che te yakbo za ha go re te indi te yakboz yongya ge chet tini soso ga sherb yarge tang go reze gre te nga chong mu yirchigre.
So to begin with, I'd like to say that this is my second time here at the University of Virginia. It's my second time to meet with you all, and I'm very happy to have this chance. Today we are talking about the purposes of education, and chiefly I'm talking about the purposes of education from the point of view of the traditional monastery in Tibet. In a general sense, we could say that the purposes of the traditional monastic education are twofold. First, one's personal development or self-improvement. And there are two aspects to this. The first being the improvement or increasing of one's own wisdom. And in this respect, we are talking about a kind of wisdom that transcends that which our senses are able to discern about the world. So in terms of what our eyes can perceive, our ears can perceive, our nose can perceive, our senses, etc., ultimately it's felt that what they're able to understand and know about the world is limited, and therefore what is needed is a wisdom that transcends these kinds of knowledge. And so the first respect in which we talk about personal improvement or development is the cultivation of wisdom.
Tani nipada tani sherp te yarje tani tangwa sibu yung yo mare tani sherp sibu yarje tani tani ngaso nyangji mena sherp te tani peshu shinchlo pa te tang ro yan ro tani nyen kan du te indi tani nyangji te yarje tang go reze te indi tani ngaso yarje tang ya te la changshok ne sha na tani sherp yarje tang ya tani nyangji yarje tang 대니리 대당 냠드 드니 소소랑 그 샘거 나라 요비 드니 삼로 신실로바 드니 저 마시바다 마스톡바다 당가서 낭추고제나 뇽몽바스 데 뇽몽바테서 마 메바치야 뇽몽바테 가데가서 메바야 보수시 마트나 드니 영소소 야지 드니 던도토고 마레 소소랑 야지 로마트 대당 냠드 뇽몽바테 마 메바 당세 단도서드나 녀지 당 셰르브니까 야지 동와당 드니 뇽몽바 메바시야 So
in addition to cultivating or increasing our wisdom, the second important aspect of personal cultivation or development is compassion. That is, without compassion, it's possible that with just wisdom alone, this wisdom can be put to incorrect or destructive purposes. So compassion, its cultivation, is also very important. So it's possible to say in terms of the things we seek to increase or improve, these are twofold, wisdom and compassion, and at the same time, the purpose of education that concentrates on self-development also emphasizes the need to eliminate those aspects of ourself that, for example, our patches, the things that our ignorance, the things that we don't know, what we refer to in Buddhist terminology as afflictive mental states. These are something that we need to work on eliminating. So in terms of this first goal of traditional Tibetan monastic education, we could say that there are two things we seek to increase: wisdom and compassion, and the one thing that we seek to eliminate, and that is afflictive mental states.
Tene muir nipati tini jala phamba dripati jala phamba dripasi ati pena nga cho chestok na ne pena tendro tawo tindi na chestok chama jamnim gu ne tene chongchup yabo tini ta shiji te chigje tene ni te tene nga cho chestok to la yo pi musoso la simkham go tene dechit yabo zo tene chenje da tene sim de tene da nga cho yang di simkham go dechit tene yar tene ta chen te dang nyam de tene ta shusok to la yang mo cho go te gangshut ko charge de tene jeche la tongje jimto la tongje ta jampang kana la tindi sim da pozre ta ndor dana tinika tene nga cho gomba ga lopso go te muir ze gona phamba ze gona dev ze gona khafta sada woteje.
So if that is the first purpose of traditional Tibetan monastic education, personal development or personal improvement, the second purpose would be that of benefiting others. And this we can talk about from three perspectives. The first of benefiting all beings, including animals, with a view that sees all beings as equal and one that therefore seeks to protect other beings. This is the first aspect of benefiting others. The second is one where happiness in society is sought to be promoted, so benefiting others through promoting happiness. And then in the third perspective, which follows on from this, would be promoting the ethical behavior of members of society. So these are three aspects of the overall purpose of benefiting others, which is the second purpose of Tibetan monastic education. So we can talk about these as the purposes of Tibetan traditional education, or the benefits of this education, or even the results of this education.
Okay, thank you so much. I have one follow-up, and that's a question for you about American universities. And your first point about personal growth was about wisdom. And you said that wisdom could be separate from compassion, and sometimes it can be dangerous if it's separate from compassion. That made me think about our technological advancement at the university. So my question is, where do you see wisdom at the modern American university, and do you see any challenges with our technological advancement, which is maybe a form of wisdom?
Nanang talolo ni dinala tene zamalanga cherche on short so lobta mambo nala joje tele korkop tele yabo shonson tene girgan yena loma yena samala te khabdafi ji korko yabo shonson ben gari zege yozena bena shirpta tene nyarji ni ka khakanda botini je sona bena da nga so lobta chimo so nala tene shiyon mambo tene yarjetanga yore tene zambalanga shivsha mambo shiga yore tendra bozka laxar ka tone pe haliba chat tene thombo tene je kandu ta yina ta te dang nyam te yin charti ta khoso yina ta maung ba zambalang de tene ta khashok kanglan joda manjo ta pe na nga chu tene lobta chimbon duso na la yupi te lomat sola tene jagle yore tene yendi tene lomatso tene ta kanda ka nalan jota manjo tene lota chimbondi lopsu la tene ta jagle yore tene lopta chimbondi lopsu ta korang so tene lopchen da kandi jig ma jig te ti thola tene jagle ndu tene yendi nge samlo tanan di nala nyarji ndabo tene te gosare ma to ba te mena pe na nga so char ka lakchar ka tene nga so tene ta lakchar ka top ka tene trchanda da manda ta tene ji chonchanda da manda tene zothap ko yore te gang thola pesho tangna njug gang thola pesho tangna munjug nam pesho tangna chok nam pesho tangna ma chok te char ka zethap ko yamare lakchar ka zethap ko yamare te lamtum shinking ka tene ta samlo jamba ji go yore Dendi yendi teni nyarji de titawla jangna ma to ba te ma jangna nge pes samlo tana nyenka chimbo da wolam to gudu ngarang ger kunguni samlo tana.
Over the last couple of years, I've had a chance to visit a lot of different universities in both the East and West, and I've also had the opportunity to meet with and engage in dialogue with a lot of different teachers and students. In my view, their wisdom and compassion, they belong together, and there is a danger if they, in fact, don't go together in an educational system. So, in general, we can say that in a university system, in a situation like here in America, students advance, they improve in their level of education, they know a great deal of information about the world, they possess a lot of technical skills and so on. In terms of the future of the world, this in fact rests on the shoulders, or in fact depends on today's university students. And if it depends on today's university students and universities, then you could say this then depends on the education they're receiving. And then this education, in fact, rests or depends on the actual lessons that they're taking place. And I feel that in terms of what they're actually learning, that compassion is essential. It's possible through our skills and our knowledge of technology to create a great deal of machines and weapons, etc. However, in terms of when and how and in respect of which goals these machines are deployed, this is not something that the technology and the machines themselves have the capacity to determine. We need someone external to the machines to determine these purposes. And in my view, compassion is essential here. Without it, we face potential great dangers and risks.
Tani America lobta chimu nam ko nala da shirb de kana de nyarji de kana de zena shirb la samlo tana ta hali par re te nga pena tari khasang re tan terang re tani nimasam go rang la tani nga pena Virginia lobta na ne girgan samala da thuk kumar da ngarang la ngarang ga sinan do pitini rera yong kan tani girgan mangbo la tani thso tin nanang ina ya te da pos girgan 망보요 특성 균 dom나 parchi teni juanga nishi teni yujire teni yena khorangso jimjikshi lugta te sope ngone halepa teni yakpo teni to shekundu te halepa ra bore teni yendi sherpta ngaso ngone ji ganga thola yena teni ji to halepa ra orewan ra thongdu ape halepa yakbore samado teni nyarje thola ngone tane shana ngaso ji ta pena nga nyarji ngaso teni lobchu che ga yore maungbala Nindi Rezianda, Tindi Thomasung, they were Virginia Chipumari, Naranga, Lota Mambola, Zambola Gesharje, Nuvre Mambola, Lepson, Mambo, Girgensola, Titola, Kabdashi, and the Shirta, Yangida, Unitani, Mambana, Yapoyonsari Samado, they Thomasung, Arangan Thomasung, Yangina, Titola Aranchi, then our Sam with the Penangazo, Shirp the Halipatin in Tombo Chak, the Yanji, the Nebanda, the Nichan, the Nida was in the Sambado, Aran Sorat in Digi. 용건들 지시나테 노라 인지리 강타는 아는 거 삼설든지스레
So in terms of wisdom and compassion in the university situation, well, over the past 3 days I've been here at UVA and I've met with a number of teachers. I was also able to do so last year as well. Perhaps last year and this year combined, I've met with a total of 15 or 20 teachers. By all means, not everyone, but a group of teachers that I was hoping to meet, I was able to meet with. In terms of the research methods that are employed here, it's really astounding. It's clearly very wonderful. So in terms of wisdom, we can say that there is great hope, that things are in a very positive situation. However, in terms of compassion, over the course of my discussions with people, I haven't really had a strong sense that there are any great prospects for compassion, or that compassion is something that's going to be really manifested really well in the future. So my sense is, in a way, that wisdom is up here and compassion is a bit down here. The two seem out of balance or out of proportion with each other. And this may be a misperception on my part, but it's my impression nevertheless.
I think we can turn it over to David to get into some details.
Yeah, so those are kind of broad statements both from Curtis and from Khenpo about the why. And if we're really, I think many of us might agree on the general goals, even if there's a difference in terms of what the priorities are. But I think the real question comes not so much on what people would say when you ask them, what's the goal of a university, what's the goal of a monastic education, but I think what's really of interest is more the what. What actually is the way that these institutions of higher learning are organized, and what do they actually do within those units? And so the modern research university is divided up usually into schools or colleges. And so we have typically a college of arts and sciences, maybe a business school, maybe a medical school, maybe an educational school, and so forth. And so what I wanted to ask Khenpo, first of all, is just what are the major units or divisions of a modern Buddhist monastery that are devoted to learning, that are examples of what the monastic higher education process units are?
아주 곰바 옛날 시당 곰바라 곰바 침부 곰바 충충 드니 멍부레 드니 양 곰바 충충 또 소나라 양다저 로종 곰마라 차창보 드니 요 말에 다 페나지 곰바 약보 드니 지다 살든 드니 로종 곰마라 차창 요 바드니 곰바지 나가 조셔당라 곰바나라 드니 작슴세 작슴 지데 장자지 야티 다 곰바가 페나 참참야 자다 곰바가 로모동야 자다 아니 곰바가 돈반동야 자다 곰바가 초반초야 자다 사마데 곰바가 르니즈레 대양 곰발라 상로타나 페카르 침보스레 데라 데 마님바다 데 야보즈 용야가 쳇데니 곰바츠고 로레라 타바르타바르데니 로종체그레 이나 데 남긴 문두다 로치크나라 다바니라보 다바싱라보 데니체그레 데스치그레 teni nipati fiatare ta zu di fiatare nga zo gomba zla samlo ta na gomba teni zu tewa ngoma da fiatare teni fiatare na la gomba yakshu zi na teni ripni chid chama dinala yore te tamchi de ripni chid ta nga zo boke na ngama tojing ka thola teni rigne tamchi sir domna teni rigne chiwa nga chungwa nga zi teni jig na la teni do teni jibo de teni changma dinala teni 로종시야 teni yo es te teni te nipare teni sambati teni ta yang gomba yang karchishu chire gomba pe karchishu chire teni gomba gomja zikre ta gomja kashi gomja zikre kashi teni dripta zik counter ton chibarendo teni tin nala teni koso gom gyap sandra pore teni gom gyap ne teni rimbe teni te gom te la yang korum zutendo teni rimji teni koso teni ta te lo chimbo rao so gom gyamne teni duksa teni re tendi teni gomba nala chi dekhak teni ta zendra teni sendra po shesani shana teni zre.
So in terms of monasteries in Tibet, clearly there are different monasteries of all sizes. There are large monasteries, there are small monasteries, and at smaller monasteries there probably isn't a complete or comprehensive education system that can be compared to the larger centers. However, for a large monastery with a complete educational system or framework in place, then there would traditionally be 3 academies. We speak of 3 academies. The first being a Jangdra, which is an academy that is geared towards training monks in dance, skills related to dance, ritual, music, and so on. These are all facets of monastic life that are important to the culture of the monastery, and so that they don't go into decline, so that these ritual aspects of life are in fact maintained. Every year, students take part in the Jangdra training. However, this is not training that takes place all year. It's usually only for 1 or 2 months every year. So this is the first kind of academy or the first type of class. And the second type of class, or the second type of academy, and really the main academy, is the Shedra. So that is the school devoted to the academic study of Buddhism or the study of Buddhist philosophy. Traditionally speaking, or in an ideal case scenario, 10 branches, the 10 branches of traditional science would be offered, the 5 major sciences and the 5 minor sciences. In addition, then the third academy, or the third type of class offered, would be that of the meditation academy, sometimes referred to as the Gomdra, in other cases referred to as a Drupdra, but in either case an academy for the study or for the practice of meditation, and an academy that would offer a graded course in meditation practice, and often one that would be taken by those somewhat older in age. So these three together form the different education academies or divisions within the traditional monastery.
Tani Shatrada Dripjani Koranga Gubata Kandrisina Shatraga Nane, Tani Gato Nangchu, Tani Tavateso, Tani Rupi Jongluk Gone, Rujong Gone, Jihok Gone, Tani Tala Papre, Rupi Jongluk, Tani Dripjati, Tani Rupi Jongluk Gone, Tani Tavati, Yambatani, Tala Patsarna, Tani Takoranga Nyamyungu Gone, Tani Yenda Maya Tago, Reperna, the Tsarik Pada Chikpare, Tsarik Pagana Pena Mukum Rupaga. Teni jimjikshini thomar teni ta repijon luk tong landro on the is yensar has it harik patso repijon luk tong landro gondo teni repijon luk tong landro charvi jini teni charik pa chorta khang mangla teni chorta shini o ta repijon luk ti normandu ta rendu ze andra o te charik pala teni nindu ten da bo shini nga chu nang chu teni na pena tin tongba nyen da bo na thomar sha ta na ne teni tongba nyet teni repijon luk tone teni tala pa kre teni Dripjang Nalandro Sati Tini Tombanya Tata Nyamyungu Goni, Ta Tombanya Renduzit, Koso Dina Sorta, Dripjati, Natsotini, the Tsarki, and Sorta Kandapore, Dripjati, the Gumjasa Kambachon, Chiri, or it is sama Mususo with any Sorta Kanri, the Korangatina Langarang Hama, the Shataganala Hojon Shiati, Jeta Mari, Ozinitini, the Nyamyungu Goni, Talapayanda, Tindi, they need the Gumba not. So in
terms of the Shedra, or the academy for the academic study of Buddhism, and then the Drupdra, the meditation academy, the differences between the two, or their two respective purposes, would be primarily the Shedra is for the study through the theoretical or the study of Buddhist doctrine or Buddhist views through rational inquiry. The Drupdra, or the Meditation Academy, is a place where students, after they have established the truth of Buddhist doctrines through rational inquiry and investigation, to then gain an experiential understanding of the truths of these doctrines. So we can say that this is rather similar to science. In physics, for example, scientists first generate a theoretical hypothesis about something, and then they carry out an actual experiment to confirm their findings. So you can say that it's the same for the Shedra and for the Drupdra. We could talk about this in terms of a doctrine like emptiness. In the Shedra, one would learn about this from a theoretical point of view, and through rational inquiry and investigation establish the truth of it, and then in meditation practice in the Drupdra to experientially understand the truth of this doctrine. So we could say that the small huts that form a Drupdra or a meditation academy are like small laboratories where practitioners or students reflect on, or rather through their meditational practice, verify the truth of the doctrines that they have theoretically learned about in the Shedra.
Then to follow up on that, basically you outlined 3 types of academies. So one is the training academy, which is where kids or older people, they're basically learning about arts and crafts and ritual activities that then go into the performance of communal rituals. So you're making the mask, or you're doing the painting, or you're learning the dances, or the liturgy that has to be recited. And I think we can find partial analogs to that in the modern university, for example, in the rise of maker spaces, the idea that we want students not just to be learning in theory, but also be making things with their hands in a variety of ways. But when we think about the meditative academy and the academic academy, then I have a few questions. So the first question is that, well, it's not really a question as much as it is a statement, because he already answered this yesterday. So I'll just say, what he told me is, I asked him, so how much overlap is there? Because if you just listen to what he said, you might think, oh, that sounds nice. First you go to the academic school, and then you go to the contemplative school. But in fact, what he told me is there's very little overlap. These are different sets of students. Most students do not go to both. They go to one or the other. And if you're young, you're channeled into the academic school. And if you're older, like means 40 plus, then you're channeled into the contemplative school. And so the question I wanted to ask him is focused on those younger people, like more similar to our age group, not me, but our students at the University of Virginia undergraduates. So you're 20, 22 years old, Tibetan, you go to the monastery, and they're going to tell you, go to the academic school. And so I'm interested in the academic school, what goes on for those kids that isn't just about studying books and studying theory? Because later, they're not going to go to the meditative school. So I'm interested, how are they, is it like and not like our undergraduates, who are also doing a lot of academic studies, a lot of theoretical studies? And so my question is, in the academic school, to what degree are they doing things other than just studying books? And how does that manifest in their schedule?
di tomar shata landro tini dripta landro tini shinin jore ina ya tasit jacha yayong tini pa mari ta ya kashi shata la mandro ne shata lojong mambu ma shine tini tab de bon ro lojong shine tini koran dripta la nyamlin shinke tini ziyore tini shata na landro kan sonda ina tini ta nga so shata na la zo de jambata ta mandawa zegona kantar te nga so chojing thola teni yenna ta zo de korang gang lojong shina te lojong shia te lagling go thone te sem go thola lagling go thola yak bondip pata zo te la sha kan du teni lagling go thog ya te zo de susorang ga sem go thola te yakba phamba yongwa ta teni ya mi jang ga teni sem go thola phamba yongwa teni zu go thola tangponi samlo tang ne teni de lojong shilik ta tendis gore shatang te mi chama te yong zena te kabori da ina korang ga chajin da putin ji korang ga rindan da wo tin ji ta chama ga teni de la di tangbone chu chu shalik ko thone na shalik lan tam ra mangbo yo pe na nga chu shan na teni chanir pa ta de shini shapa yang choba mangbo jam ni teni sha che yo yang chi nyamling ko thola teni shalik yo teni shi di 대초 고토네 때니 당보네 수소고 셈고 돌라데 망보스 상로 당고레 네상로 당나 데 가서 롭자가 때니 로종실릭다 만자와 지데 데레 상거도 때니 잠바 때니 다주 데낭튼 참마 말이 배나 가서 보긴 낭튼 라이나 양 초바 잡지데 할리파 망보레 다 차버트 게릭 파이나 초바 잡지데 할리파 망보레 다 롭다시모 나라 초바 잡지데 요다 요리다 이나 나추고다 곰바 차버길 곰바 나라이나 쪼바잡기도 델리장 망보레도 대양지 잔다 마다와 지리 삼거도 다 딘디 언인자 원도.
So in general, the idea is that students first go to the Shedra, and then after having completed their academic study there, that they progress on to their meditative training. But of course, this is not the case that this happens 100% of the time. There are situations, of course, where students just complete a relatively simplified or basic academic training and then move directly onto their meditative training. In terms of the Shedra, the most important thing is that what is learned by the students is implemented by them to their benefit in their lives. So that is, what they study should be able to be implemented to benefit their own minds, as well as implemented by them to benefit others. So this is one particular aspiration of the Shedra system. And of course, it's not to say that everyone accomplishes this. This is a goal. This is an aspiration. The second special aspect of the Shedra education would be debate. And that is, in Buddhism, we have different ways of teaching, or different ways of learning the teachings. There's a particular way of teaching when we're teaching the academic study of Buddhism, another way of teaching when we're primarily addressing practice. In any case, not all Buddhist traditions, but particularly in Tibetan Buddhism, and even more so in schools such as the Gelug school, debate is very important. So this prominence of debate in the education system, combined with what was just mentioned, the emphasis on implementing what one studied to benefit one's mind, these are two special aspects of the Shedra education.
Tani gomba shatra te lojong te nyamlin danika te zongjik shiluk te la shatang gomba susula yang te roluk mambo yor pe na choba jam kan na yang choba na ne soso te samba yarji la tang ta te mambo yor ta ti na ne te chaman janja mare chamal sur manja mambo du pe la nga chu larung gar ra po te zin na te ne nga chu yang di parlo trip shi pe ne kam pe na woma sha na chama sha na tani ngomba sha na te sha pi ne kam na tani loma chu tani simla tani pan yak bo zu tani tok ta ba da tani loma chu jima yang khocho loma je gona yang mi jamba la tani ti pan tok ya ti par koda yak bo chat ya tani zig thola gang thola gang a chu jimjik je gona ra dolang mambo she kare ta kap sang a chu chond chu ne te nga chu tani lobso jablu ka khapshok te gandri ren ro gond tani khapshok te nga chu 찬이르 반라 보치고 셈톡라 판바메 바틴 리즈레 소나 양스 gerju jab go gore yang acho teni nyamle chikpo ma to yang rigjung ko thola chimbo ro ma thapna yang sar kor ne teni lamka tambu zlan ro ke ti thola teni dolang mampo teni shene teni she gare acho gamra ina shire ni re de nyamling ko thola na pe na los chik na la teni acho dawas chik na la teni acho lobchat saman sam jagne teni sangma ga teni gom jab करे थे gom jab ने दावा चिकना पे ना ती gom jab का से ना गाचो गारलान रोना परची ती गारला मुस्टिक जा मधु संबंध हो तिंडी रे चिक यो मारे छमा खमला त दे गो रे तिंडी लमखाला तिनी गेकु दा त सो छमा तिनी तांखन तिनी त दुंग दुग रे तिनी चि न्युमकुं को का से तेज शलो ला यो मा त बाजन मुस्टिक जा शलो ला रंग यो मारे दावा चिक चार्जिति दावा चिक रे यंदा ती नानी ता निमा निशी नजरे रो ती नाला gum jabne teni soso zongjik shia teni gore teschi je teni ni de yang tin la teni nimba da teni ta donji chi yedam gumne nimba donji da yang toso parti thola nung go yore te lojong go thola teri ne samlo ta na te nga zo lota chimo na la ta teni yotun yo mare te na chi manda chi shu chi shetang ni ka ga lota chimo go rne mambo jang ga de nga zo rne mambo lojong she go yore re ta yang manda ba zyo tindri ra ondu sam gadu ta nga chope na gar dala samlo ta na tindri re yang gomba sosola yang mandawa yang tini lalen kathola mambondu.
So in terms of the ways that individual monasteries combine the theoretical or academic study of Buddhism with practice, there's diversity here. In terms of the first point that Khenpo would like to make is that insofar as the academic or theoretical study of Buddhism is concerned, for example, using the primary methodology of debate, great consideration is given to the way that these methods do benefit the minds of the students. So at Larunga, whether it's in terms of the Madhyamika study or epistemology or Abhidhamma, a great deal of thought is given to how the teaching of these subjects enables students themselves to be benefited, and at the same time trains the students to be able to benefit others. Whether you would call this research or discussion, in any case, a lot of attention is given to these questions at meetings that are frequently held at Larongga. And if it is felt that things are excessively going in a what you might call scientific direction, that is all knowledge and no benefit to the mind, then changes are made and it's brought back in the other direction. If, on the other hand, it's felt that things are going purely in the direction of practice with not sufficient knowledge cultivation, and things are redirected slightly in the other direction with an attempt that students follow a middle path or a straight path in their education that balances both of these considerations. The other second difference that the traditional monastic situation might have from a university situation in terms of knowledge learning is, for example, at Larongga, every year for 1 month, no classes are held, and all students and teachers spend 1 month in retreat. So during this time at Larongga, it seems as if the place is deserted. Everybody is residing in their own dwellings. There's no one to be seen during the day. Perhaps sometimes in the late afternoon you see a few people out on the street, but essentially for a period of 1 month, everybody stays inside doing practice retreat. The intention is that this period of time could be 1 month, but sometimes, given different reasons, it ends up being around 20 days or so. But this is one important effort that is made to complement students' theoretical study of their theoretical program of Buddhist study. The third important point is that in addition to these things, students are expected to accumulate recitations of their particular idams, or particular idam mantra accumulation is required of the students too. So these are three ways in which the traditional monastic education might be different from the university context, although probably in both situations students are expected to do a lot of theoretical study and essentially working in cultivating their knowledge.
So I just wanted to make a little bit of a response to that based upon what we do in the Modern Research University. One thing that I think is not that uncommon is when he's talking about the care for how studies benefit people's minds and not just theoretical knowledge. I would say that's present in many parts of the university, where different faculty and curricular lessons are taking care to transmit knowledge, but also in a variety of ways taking care to help students cultivate experiences and personal capacities and growth. That, I think, is very common in many ways. What I think is hard to see in the modern university is the notion of lengthy periods of time during which students do any practices together, putting aside the issue of what the practices are. They don't have to be about meditation. They could be about whatever. But I don't really see that so much in the modern university. And we were talking about that a little bit. And a friend of mine who was at Valparaiso University said that when he was there, the first-year students at the end in the honors college all had to produce a play together. And so that was, I think, certainly an analog where for a number of days they are doing something together that has ritual elements to it, aesthetic elements, and so forth. I also see this in our business school, where one of our famous business school professors, Ed Freeman, does an entire MBA class where the students' main job is to produce a play together. And of course, we have an entire department devoted to such things, the drama department. So we can see analogs there, but the notion of the whole University of Virginia for 1 month stopping and together doing any kind of practices, whether they're devotional practices or service learning or putting on a play or sometimes the contemplative exercises, that strikes me as a rather significant difference.
No, okay. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to go back to the issue of theory and practice in the Sheja and make a comparison. So one of the things that we have students do in modern public universities is read a lot of literature. We have them read novels in particular. And I think that one of the reasons we do this is because we believe that it will make them more ethical people. Reading a novel is one way to develop an imagination that can imagine the joys and sufferings of other people. Students probably don't have that first and foremost in their mind when we're teaching them novels. But I think at the best of times, professors and students, they have that high ideal in mind. And so I want to ask him if he thinks of Madhyamaka philosophy. How can a highly developed, how can a lot of study of Madhyamaka philosophy make a more ethical person? Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because Madhyamaka philosophy is also about the nature of self and the nature of others.
Tene kunshu tangyate de yarjisa tangyate ngacho gomba ga loso na de muir chishu chigre muir chishu chigre ta ina tene shetang ngacho gomba ina ta khoso yarjit kunshu yarjit tangyate pe na ngondo kondrata lojong kondrata tene chapartun darwan rata tene shonjing rata tesu korta tene kunshu yarjit tonchite teje tene omaga tene shertan tene omaga ta kunshu yarjit tanyala ta omag changwa tene so sojab kamare omata so ti gum jab tene zire rete ina tene gum yak po jab ngoni changne omaga nala tene shapandra poti khorang ka nyamnyu gone yak po zo kosona tene ti shiki tene ta khorang ka semna yo pin do chagre jedang re tene ngarjir chagdo teso samambar mepa shi thap kare karti teso mepa shi thap sona tene aso kunshu chang tene rangshik tene yar tene yakpo yung thaya tene zi yung te chigre ni re tene oma na la tene shapi tene ta tomba ni ji tonte yakpo khoro nyamnyung ha ko sona rangshik tene machama la tene nyarji te yung gare nyarji ke gare tene tomba ni ka te ton di sina tene nyarji rangshik ke gare tene nyarji te tene sem ko na la yakpo ke yona tene khorang ko shol mambo la chet ta nga chun den di shi go den di shi na den di shi machine machok o den di te mazina khorang rangshik tene ji par jampan la tene samlo yak potang khandra jampan ga lekka len khandra den di re yong gore te di te oma te shetang ten di ga kunshu tam dewa hali pa chimbundu ta ina te nga su gomba ga la zu te oma ga she ga mari ta jamba so she gandu.
So in terms of the connection between the study of Madhyamaka philosophy and ethical behavior or and ethical subjectivity, this is not probably the primary purpose that we tend to think that the study of Madhyamaka philosophy is directed towards in terms of the cultivation of ethical behavior and ethical dispositions. We tend to more talk about the effect or we talk about this in terms of the preliminary practices or lojong mind training or study of the bodhisattva path, etc. We tend to regard these as more primary resources for the study of which leads to ethical training. However, it is, and so the study of Madhyamaka philosophy is tended to be seen as something that is of more relevance to one's meditation and meditative understanding or realization. Having said that, though, we can say that a person with a good experiential understanding of Madhyamaka, that this would have benefit for their ethical self. For example, a good understanding of Madhyamaka, experiential understanding of Madhyamaka philosophy or the Madhyamaka teachings would enhance a student's capacity to curb or eliminate their desire, anger, jealousy, pride, etc. And so this would have benefit for their own ethical disposition. At the same time, too, an experiential understanding of the Madhyamaka teachings with this understanding of emptiness automatically or naturally arises compassion. Compassion on the part of the student or practitioner for others. And in this situation, it is not necessary to explicitly tell people that they should do this or they should do that in order to benefit others. Rather, their awareness of how to act and act compassionately comes automatically. So we could say that this is the ethical benefit that is attached to the study of Madhyamaka.
Good. Now I want to change the subject to the people who are benefiting from monastic education right now in contemporary Tibet. Traditionally, it's been monks, to a lesser extent nuns, but today we know that monasteries also teach children, and they teach lay communities of all ages. So Khenpo, can you tell us a little bit about monastic education directed to children and also to lay communities, lay adult communities?
어때 아주 주진 그 돌아야나 되니 곰바갈 호소 다 데라 로종 생긴도 쪼데 되니 자와리데 시당 자와다 조모니까 요요르데 있다 이나 디나니 망치슈데 자와리데 니다 베나 아주 볼 다즈 라삼로 땅바이나 참말라데 셈가나라 출라 다바요르다 이나 되니 출라 되니 땅 잡부 고니 되니 로종 생긴도 되니 자바 와토바 잠바 망보즈 되니 다 문득 때라 김슨 망보즈 또 쪼데 나추지야데 때 배잖아 배나 차르거더니 짐징다 보배나 든지즈겠나 때때라 칠리 빠진다 문다 고운도 마토바다 배나 차르거 짐직된 배나 나서지 총 잡전자다 되니 저 찹시가 레카 레전자다 야나 장 모저다 되니 저 되니 좀 소절라 대 용사마레 거랑 칠리 바 뭐든지 레카 링킨즈 고운도 대 르니 강이나 르니 땅 잡고서 참마 칠리가 뭐요 고운도 칠리가 뭐 메나 되니 te rinne de makashin rondo shertang ka ngaso te la tin di mus gondo ta tin ja po indi po ke na ngama yana tin di zre ta tin di indi tini shertang ka thoni ta ta ngaso pe na mangchok yana re tini chomo yana re jamba tini s ke na ti thola lojong shina chokore chokmo chokshana samala chokore te indi tartan ra po yana pe na ngaso tini gar ra wo yana ya te gomba susula yang lelu mambo yo pe na ngaso gar ra po yana tini di nane chu nga chu nachu go nane te tab depo teni kwal len na len teni lapota teni mangso kun chwa tam rewa yakbo yongkhen tenji ko korat teni mangso ko la teni pharat teni chapdar teni tangayo te chiri teni ni te nga chu shertang ina nga chu te garla teni ina ko chu yang trabata teni chomo indi teni yang shertang go mo jamba tin la yong ne teni ndu chok mar ina yang tin la yang hloma daw teni chi jimjuk shen khan jata 양나 때니 야르낭다 근낭라 때니 코초고 디 로종 신경 때리오나 묵서 때니 가서 벤나 지 범메디나 때니 조모나란도니 로종 제야다 때니 자바이나 때니 디 자방나란디 부즈기나 자방나나 도니 때 로종 신나 때 로종 지 초야가 때니 고 파르티니 신니 때니 다오 때니 시용 가서 가르라 부진다 때니 제티 셔당 가서 상지 공거더니 공방 뭐만 잡고 있나? 아니 뭐 참마거더니 다 소종도 냠순용나 용초야 되니지.
So it's true that in traditional Tibetan society that monks were the main recipients of specialist Buddhist education. Of course, there were nuns as well, both monks and nuns, but the majority were monks. Tibetans as a whole had faith in Buddhism. However, those actually studying the Buddhist teachings at a more deep and profound level tended to be monks. And of course, there are many reasons for this. One reason being that Buddhism, rather like science, is something that requires a group of specialists to study, a specialized training or specialized group of people learning and studying its knowledge. So it's not like something like business or plowing the fields or herding cattle, etc. It's something that without specialists committing themselves to its study and transmission, this form of knowledge would go into decline. However, in theory, of course, there are no restrictions on who is able to study the Buddhist teachings. Lay people can, nuns can, anyone is able to and allowed to study Buddhism. So some changes or some initiatives that have been undertaken at Larunga in this respect to make Buddhist education or teachings available to a wider spectrum of the community include presenting teachings in a more accessible, easily understood way to lay populations and in a way that more directly corresponds with their everyday life. So teachings that have been presented in this way have been disseminated among lay populations. So this is one thing that's done. Secondly, in general at monasteries, members of the outside community, lay people, for example, are not allowed to study among the monks and nuns. However, this is something that Larunga has done differently. Those, for example, research students or short-term students from outside are able to study among the monks and nuns for, let's say, during their summer or winter vacations or for other periods of time. Women are able to study among the nuns and men are able to study among the monks. So in terms of making this open door policy, this is one particular initiative that Larunga has taken. In general, in the time of the Buddha, monasteries were places that were open to any and all to study the Buddhist teachings.
So I think as we move to the conclusion of this, that we wanted to talk a little bit about what we see in the future of universities, future of monasteries. And in this context, Khenpo had a couple of questions that he was going to pose back for us as a way to frame these.
Yes. Yeah. Ngarang tari tini Virginia Lodrö chimbo nala yone yang girgin namba sota chwa ko chi tini yongwi ko ngepe yakbo zre sam ti jimsin ji ngarang ge yang chwa de kashi de jabdik shiyo ta khongcho ye na tini khorang cho tini charik ba je na ja tini Lodrö girgin chimbo ge je na ja khorang ge ti thokni phar nga chu tini gomba ge tini loso da so la de ta na tini Gandhi's tini yosare nge ti thone chwa kachi ta go sam go tondak tambo ti pe na nga cho ta ta yana tini Lodrö chimbo tini loma cho go tini simkham la pe amna ton haliba chimbo ndug tini rigni haliba yargin ro ndug rete ina yo simkham la yargin ndug zambalang go tini Lodrö ang tangshu pe na hawa Lodrö chimbo da yana tini khorang cho go loma go gyacham jipchi yernga go tini to loma cho go sim go tola simkham go napa tini ta ta rendu Tindi yena tini te tang, tini te maimbi Lodrö jamba tini nala pena nga chon zendra chik nala yena loma ta nga chon ang tangbo tini loma niyo na tini loma chikpo ti tini ngali te zi yarjin ro anda o tini ngala tokpa yo na tini ngi thana sim ko nala marga wata tini matsat tini ngi tila tik tamni tini taga te Lodrö te sav shaka tini thonggo doa te chikya. Teni nita teni nga tso lobri dukshut zi taga Lodrö ga nangla teni dukshut dukshub ko shopa pe na chi Lodrö ga nangla ta chi tezi chi wangcha yongkan zi na ja yang na chi teni nipa yongkan tso teni chungshung tso la donggyo tana nashchut halipa nga tso di chatok la namgim tiri mambu thungu duk taga Tendi yung tuk so sama stop cha ga teni simkhum ga teni natun rin dik tendi indi di natun da teni tachu she ki ta tabshi yakshu ti teni gangya na nge zwa tangbo de ti.
So I've been here at the University of Virginia and have had this opportunity to speak with a lot of teachers and researchers, and now I've got this opportunity to pose a few questions myself, and so I'm glad to have this opportunity. And the first question that I would like to ask to both Curtis and David in their capacities as university teachers or educators is how they, from their perspective, view the traditional Tibetan monastic education system. That is the first question. The second question relates to psychological issues or mental health issues which seem to be extremely prevalent among students in Western educational institutions. That is to say, the knowledge of these students, their knowledge levels are extremely high, but they seem to be encountering a lot of psychological illnesses, and mental illness seems to be very widespread. I've heard, for example, in the first-rate academic institutions of the US that as much as 45% of the student population suffers mental illness at any one time. I've also heard of situations where in one class, let's just say among the top 2 best students, that one student might feel when the other student gets the better of them, gets a little bit ahead, that they don't just feel unhappy about this, but they also, that there have been cases of people taking such drastic measures as even poisoning the person who is getting ahead of them. And not just this, also bullying. That is where students with power or clout, they use this to bully others, sometimes physically hurting them, etc. There are many cases of this on the internet. In any case, all of these are psychological issues, they're psychological problems, and my question would be is, what do you think is the best way to go about solving or addressing these mental challenges or psychological challenges that seem to be so prevalent?
Those are easy.
First question was, how do we view the Tibetan Buddhist monastic education?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, let's see. I'll focus on what I think is positive about it that I don't see us doing well enough. And that is, it's a couple things actually. One is a sustained attention to the relationship between theory and practice, or between making things and reflecting on the value of making those things. We have colleges that are dedicated towards scientific innovation, and we have colleges that are dedicated towards liberal arts, or sometimes learning for self-cultivation. But very often those two are distinct. And what you've described, at least in the ideal sense of your discussion about modern monastic education, is a place where you're really trying to integrate theory and practice, integrate making things and reflecting on the value both for individuals and for societies. And I think that's really valuable. The other thing that I think monasteries do, that especially the Sheja, the philosophical college, or the academic side of things, is that you spend a lot of time studying single subjects. So you have multiple years for a single type of philosophy. You have ways to develop experts that sometimes we don't make time for. We have majors, concentrations of classes, but sometimes those are very haphazard. And long-term learning of specific, very deep topics, I think is good for people at times. Sometimes we don't do that well enough. What do you think?
Well, I would just add three other things of value, and then I'm going to, since I'm a more negative person than Curtis.
It's black.
Yeah, black. I'm going to give two things that I see critical. So, three things I see of value is that when you live in a monastery, and I've lived in his monastery and I've lived in a lot of other monasteries, there's a very common notion about why people are there. It doesn't mean it's why everybody's there. It doesn't mean what they actually do is completely aligned with that. But it's very common to be talking in the way he talks, which is that we're here for the common good. This is about education, to be more caring, etc. And I think regardless of the difference between that and actual practice, that there's something positive to be said about a communal agreement that that's why we're here. And I don't think we always share that in public universities. A second thing is, I think there's great value to these collective practices. The idea that there are moments, a week, 2 weeks, even a month, when everybody is engaged in common activity that expresses a sense of shared purpose and shared identity. We don't have that. And I think there's something that we've really lost about that. And the third thing, I think, has to do with contemplative practices and placing an importance and a priority on those. But I should say that anybody who's familiar with the history of the West knows that we are very familiar with monasteries. The kind of monastic education he's talking about, it was all over Europe, everywhere. There were hundreds and hundreds of monasteries with exactly these kinds of practices and goals and agendas and so forth. And we made a historical and very often violent decision to break those up. So we're not coming to monasteries as if, wow, never heard of that thing. This is something that we decided to put behind us. And so now we're at a moment when we're thinking, well, so the university hasn't quite worked out the way we hoped it would. Some great things have happened, and a lot of very negative things have happened, such as the exponential growth in mental illness among students. Every year, last year, this year, number of kids who are hospitalized, which means we think they're going to kill themselves. Exponential growth. So as we, at this moment, look back and think, well, we used to have lots of monasteries. Now we have lots of universities. What did we leave behind? What did we choose to encourage? And how might we adjust those decisions? So those are some good things that we could go back to Christian university, Christian monasteries, Jewish, Islamic, etc., Buddhist monasteries, and think about. But I would say two things that I don't see so great in the modern Buddhist university. And that I think I see some really good things here in our university. One would be creativity. If I'm going to look in Tibetan society for genuinely creative developments, intellectually and artistically, I won't go to the monastery. I see them. I see them in the explosion of new filmmaking. I see them in the explosion of poetry and novel writing. I see them in the explosion of popular music and contemporary Tibetan art. That's where I see creativity. And I'd like to see that and the traditional Tibetan monastery be more connected to each other. And the second thing I would say is that all institutions, in the end, have power issues of hierarchy and inequity and imbalance. And I think that in the monastery, that discussion isn't really as open as it should be. And the university, as we've all seen very clearly over the past couple of years, the discussion is much more open. Does that mean we have a much better situation? We obviously have a lot of problems. But I think if we're going to deal with our problems, there's got to be an open discussion of them. And I think that's something that universities have created more of an open space for that. So those are two things that I would say, not so bad. So we should answer about all of our...
I wonder if Khenpo has any response.
We didn't answer about the Sentang Tang Tandalin Gemason. Okay. You got an answer?
What, for the
Psychological
why so much? Well,
No, not why so much. Like, what are we going to do about it?
oh, no. No, I don't. I don't have an answer for that. I mean, I have an analysis, and that's that, and it's competition. Competition leads to stress. And I think that's at the root of so many of our problems. And it starts it doesn't start in college. It starts in grade school now. We're a deeply competitive society. But I want to ask if you see that in the monastery, because I think that competition is probably happening in modern Chinese society, and do you feel it in the monastery as well?
gompa nala ngacho lobjung nala pansa chikisilan jamdr drawota teni jongzio re pena nga garla larungarla nini lobjung shini ta lo parchi simchi drawota ndi reso teni ji lo chembo chak sabi kalsa mamboyo ma yena lo nyonyong yimbi kalsa garla ndrone pena lo jinda teni nangla ngacho lo macho nangla yena pansan teni tsoba mambo yabgare ngarang tawayo khorang tawayo ngani gi warla tawa ga toni mandrina shetong tawa ga tondak reta yena kale ngani ka mager ga tondak da wachang reta teni dawota teni yana pena teni nge chik teni jong chik teni yaboz lo la linje ga thola yang te nge chik tamna khorang ga chik tam shekan dawo thoyona yang nge tez tammandu samban dawo teni kaji yore teni ngachu girgun so chet teni ngachu la nonshik yang te cha gare te nonshik ta zawani mena yang jik mandu te zawa nonshik che so na ngachu la kyon de do re ma to ba nonshik zawani mena yang lo jong thola yarje yang ta ta kanstar ngachu go teni stor jing ta wa teni zrem te go re teni dawo te yo ma to ba te le jamba nonshik chembo yo mare ta jimsen shere jina ngachu pena bog gomba nani loso teni tarshin sarvi jini teni ngarang ga shawa aragmarak teni samgo mare te khara shawa teni ngaso shisoko tholanda o teni jamdir chimbo rachun chibo ngarang ga shawa yakboz aragmara teni ngarang ga teni yang shawa tela teni ngarang ga chi teni chi ger ke yang chi leka mamboz teni yong mayo tso kora ga teni semter te tez chungchung re teni yendi chimbo menduk de ngesam lo tona gomba na la zawane mezena tezi yo kori na chimbo menduk samgyo.
So in terms of the question of competition, of course, this does exist to some extent in Tibetan monasteries. In my case, from the time I arrived at Larunga until the present, 30 years have passed. And in particular, when I first arrived, when I was younger, the first 10 years that I was there was a period of intense study, a lot of debate, and of course during these times one person would have their view, the other person would have one person would have his view, the other person would have theirs, and even though it began as a difference in opinions, this would sometimes turn into personal conflicts between people. There were maybe other situations where one student was able to memorize a text completely and the other was only able to memorize half, and they got their nose a bit out of joint over this. In general, teachers also applied or gave us a bit of pressure to assist us in progressing in our studies. Having no pressure whatsoever is not acceptable. On the other hand, or having too much pressure, on the other hand, is also harmful. So the traditional viewpoint would be that some pressure is beneficial to students' academic advancement. But probably the reason that we don't have as much competition or stress that comes from it in the monastery situation compared to the rest of society is that students in a monastery don't have to worry about whether or not they're going to get a job or not after they graduate. So because they have fewer worries about this, fewer concerns about whether they'll get a job or their own individual situations upon graduation, probably there's less psychological stress stemming from this competition.
So we're going to bring it to a close in a moment, but I just wanted to answer about the prevalence of mental challenges within our student body. I think the way we're going to address that is not by bringing more counselors and more help in the student health to bear upon the problem, because that's at the other end of the problem. And what we need to do instead is something that, whether or not we do it, I think will define what we really care about in higher education. If we do not do this, then I think it's quite clear that we do not really prioritize the personal development of our students. I think this is a juncture that we're at in higher education. And the first thing is, we have to reintegrate the residential and the academic. We cannot have the classroom and the personal space in the dorms and the frats and the sororities be so completely different from each other as they currently are. These two have to be lifted back into an integrated whole. The classroom needs to be more about people's personal development, personal experiences, and so forth. And the residential experience has to be more about knowledge and growth. And in terms of doing that, I think from the day the students arrive on grounds, we need to communicate to them in a variety of ways that a crucial part of your education over the next 4 years is about understanding where you are in your life and your abilities, your body, your emotional health, your social capacity, your ability to concentrate, your ability to be creative, and that all of us, when we think about these individual things, how well do I concentrate? How well can I empathize with other people? How much compassion do I have? How much can I analyze? That we're all on a big spectrum. Some of us have this well developed and this very poorly developed. And for the next 4 years, we have to constantly be coming back to these and trying to address the things that are less well developed. It's not something wrong with us, but rather that's what education is. And the things that we're trying to push to become more developed are not simply the parts that make us better at analysis and better at communication through writing. Those are important, but so are these other aspects. And so, if we were able to create an environment like that from day one, when 18-year-olds arrive on campus, and we communicate it in our classrooms, in our syllabus, in the residential experience, then I think we're going to see students who are on a pathway towards becoming much calmer, much more wise at the practical level, and much more able to cope with the astonishing rate of change that we currently experience in our lives, individually and collectively, and the stress that goes together with that. Blah, blah, blah. So that to me would be the pathway that if we chose, then we could really say 10 years later, American higher education, we care enough to care. Right now, I don't think we can honestly say that and not be hypocritical. So we have one final question for Khenpo.
Well, during that very long speech, I was thinking that in some ways today we both have the same students. We share students now. There are Chinese students here. There are Tibetan students here. You know, most of them are lay people. Every once in a while, there's a monastic that comes to higher education, but it's a shared world now. So both of our institutions of higher learning are sharing similar challenges. And I want to ask you a similar question that you asked us, not about mental illness, but about what do you think needs to change in your kind of institution to meet the next 10 years of change in China and the world? What needs to change about the monastery?
Sherdam mususu late yang jamjag samlo mambo yujiri ngarang gir ketini samlo ina ngaso tini stojing tini gomba kate soso te late soso nangdung ke thola ta jirata gomba ta soso jaksar ke thola tini tez da jirchui ta jaggo tini samgyo tondak tampo de kare zena ngaso tini ta gomba tini soso nang tini chashi chigdre changmad mare tini chashi chigde tini asu shitsokda haliba katak nibu shije dang tin chuwa dang tini katak nibu shije ditogla tini gogond sherdang asu boban jazina sherdang tini daga dan chuwa nangla tini chut tini mo cho jogba jangba gang chuwa tangla tini hajang jig yonji da ina tini yang maungbala tarong tapshi sarwan ro ma shina dirb sarwari sondi tini menam ge samlo sarwa indi 대당 탐바즈 시 고디 때니 대 gerchuchiri sam goyozi ta gerchuze gona tezi chi yargi thangarawo tindizre gerchung mazada marita teschigiris.
So this is something that many people have different views on. In terms of my own opinion on this question, I would say that the traditional content of the Tibetan monastic system is not something that needs to be changed. However, a few changes could be made to the way that we deliver this content, or the way the education system, the method. So the first point is that that some monasteries, a percentage or a proportion of monasteries, need to cultivate closer connections with society. So in general, Buddhism has a great influence and involvement in the lives of Tibetans, lay communities, farmers, nomads, etc. However, given the changing times, it's necessary that we need new ways to deliver Buddhism among the lay community. And so this is one way that you could say we might develop. It's not a reform or a change so much as an area that we could improve in.
Teni nipata nga so pena chorjing ga teni nangchu ga to thola teni tasta ga teni rangshong char ga ko teni lobchu sarwa kashi teni thola teni nung go sare sambundu te Gimsung Kang Rezina Tanga Tsu Yang Hama Tini the Pen Mumban Rata, the So Nangla, the Ne, the young Jisting Kamlan Reshit in the Mambo Yonretini. Yanayang, this was Tastagatin in Reshit Tantani, Tasta Tayona, Tastagatin in Nansarda, Mountain Banda with the Rio. Yana, the mountain be Gimson the Gang Goni Shongari thing at so Hagoyo, the low tone trusting that in his Goni, young Mohamanam Gotini Jimjikshini, the mountain bar. 용거래지 용이 김선던 데리즈 레진네티니 샤장도 또요나 몬턴바테티 코랑텐티 몬턴바 요파티 김선당 담바즈 레트 있나요 다스티티니 가서 직tin 달란데시 탄디 잡고 양 사르크나네 양테니 양 딱바임 바테니 노라메파 티수코라튼 가서 남바가 나라야 테즈 장나 테니 상지 랑거티니 송거 나라 티토라 하레파 그 양보테니 테니 셰장요레 테인디 테즈 가서 낭추거테니 직tin 가 타와 야르테즈 야르긴 The
second aspect that improvements could be made in is the addition of some subjects or natural science subjects being added to the traditional curriculum. So at present, we have the Abhidharma teachings that we study, and they present one account of the world, one cosmological account, and it's one that isn't in accordance with contemporary scientific explanations of the world. And of course, there are clear reasons for this being the case. These texts were composed a long time ago, and so the explanations that they gave were clearly in accordance with particular conditions at the time. We can understand that. However, regardless the situation, these accounts not in accordance with our contemporary situation. Where we are now, we need to have accurate and error-free explanations and accounts of the natural world, and if this could be added upon the foundation of the traditional curriculum, this would be very good. In general, Buddhism takes a very open-minded approach to this.
Tani sambat tani nyamling tani shok ta ga so tani lojong dang nyamling je yang tani chanyin dang tani gumdrup je ta tani jina tomba ton ta chi bari ti na ni nga cho maum bala to chu ti tarong ti nyamling ge shok te la te zam ro thna te yak bore sam gyo ka re jina maum be nga chu shok te pe nyok ta chi si je de ro re zambalang ta ta ne nyok ta chim bo mang bo re tarong nyok ta chim bo mang bo 용거래 되니 쇼근 욕다양 몸보 용근도 샘캄 그 욕다 딜리장 치보 용근도 디 값스 되니 가서 루피 종lik 치보 탁수시거나 자원에 탁수시고 뭐저 탁수시탑 뭐 몸보즈 냠용다 냠링 그 통에 되니 탁수시고 근도 된지 옛날다가 곰그 통라 곰 냠링 그 통라 대지 식침본다 원도트나 약보레 삼고 대 선바이.
And the third aspect that I think, if improved, would be useful in the future is, in terms of study and practice, putting more emphasis on the practice side of things. The reason for this being that we exist in a complex society, and only a society that is only growing more complex. We have lots of problems now, more are coming in the future, and whether in terms of the external world, the material world, or at a psychological level in our own minds. And in the face of these challenges, theoretical understanding or theoretical knowledge itself is insufficient to address these challenges. It's necessary that we have a practical, internalized understanding, and that will be able to help us meet these challenges. So for this reason, if we were to place more emphasis on practice, on meditation, this would be the third aspect of meeting future needs in a positive way.
Bena shusoko tola teni shusoko todan chuwa tola teze mambun rawo shirtang mepan mari ta nga yore ta yena teze mambun rawo rotop sona teni nga chu chu to gumba ga nang la te lama da tawa chu chi teni jimjik shia ta lama tawa chu chi gum jya teni chipo mayem ba nga chu shuso chama ta mi chama la teni pantong ro teni zi yonsare ni kala pantong ya zi yonsare sam gu te guba tambore guba ni pa te teni nga chu pe na ripa sarwa charik tang teni chuluk Teni ina yana teni ta charik ta chorgin rini sarwa ta nyamba nyamdo teni zombi ne kamna pena nashuk ta lorgi thola yana rini ni ka nyamdo thone tani ti thola mambo kandishi go mako teni ti thola chopa mambo jab teni ta ramda lekka ya mambo le teni le ne teni tasti par teni manam ga sem ga nangla teni yet phamba lo phamba ga teni nesar mambo teni shong yore teni ngachu teni shong na dokme teni yendi teni ngachu te shong go yamdu tena 차르 당는 니포 야보즈 그 통네 되니 람카 야보즈 그 통네 나다 다르브지나 차르다 출르지나 되니 니카 그 통네 람카 야보즈 그 통라 로토야가 데 야보 용사리 삼고 동다 니파데 되니 선바데 냠링 데데 야보즈 셰장나 가초 벤다 냠링데 가초 라마타바게 냠링 시 되니 가초 머캬품보가 냠링 시 되리시나 아니 소소 심그 돌아더니 야르지 다나다가 심컴 그 돌아 데케다 심컴 그 등머 되니 망보즈도 렌도 탁주시 탑사레더니 거랑 출라타파시나 저거요레 출라타파 마시나 저거요레 베나가서 데 나우추고 나라 요피더니 돈닥 망보즈더니 소소라더니 다 파냠슬린 찍나 디 판바할리파 약보 아메리카 시소코 나라 무틴지 망보즈 그 Tene ngacho nangchu jambanyer jak gum jab kandu te yorobla jab kandu manjambalang kasakala jab kandu rete khoso chama te nangba changji pa ta ta rezena mare kashi thana zawani chuluk tapa menke tindi yondu yinna khosola tini to te phandi thongro ndu tindi yinna ngacho nyamling ge shotela te jabna teni mombola teni phanthongro sa resam tindi te sosum ko kola maombala signon je gona lakchu tindi shetamna ngaya boresam gudu.
The reasons for why I think these three aspects are important directions to work on for the future are that The first reason would be that they would lead to not only benefit for residents in the monastery, in the Shejo or in the Drupja, but also for society as a whole. Secondly, in terms of the integration of new knowledge, scientific knowledge, and traditional knowledge, this is something that in the experience of the West has not been a smooth path. There's been a lot of debate about this, there's been a lot of conflict, and there's been a lot of great sense of disappointment or failure even at the extent to which this has been successfully accomplished. So in the Tibetan situation, we don't wish for a situation like this. We rather would hope to combine the traditional and the new, or the traditional and the scientific, in a harmonious way, in a way that presents a harmonious and complementary future path for society. And then third point would be that practice, placing emphasis on practice, not just for monastics, but also for members of the lay population, would give everyone resources to deal with suffering and challenges that they face. And this is something that doesn't require people to have Buddhist faith necessarily. Benefit can be gained by people through the meditational practice, regardless of whether they have Buddhist faith or not. And we can see this very clearly in the situation in the case of Europe and America, where so many people are practicing mindfulness meditation. By no means all of these people, in fact, the majority probably don't have Buddhist faith, and yet it is clear that they're gaining a great deal of benefit from this practice. So I think that these are three important aspects of the improvements that we can make in the future.
Got more questions? You have more questions for us?
Tani maung ba kola darung atra ninduzi tani chikta peranga chu gomba ga tani ta soso nala yupi nangdun tichu yena tani lota chimo ga ta lomala perna tani nangdun ga nani chashi tani khochola lamna khocho ga tani magir ga tani ta yargi ndola phamba yosa aris. Oh yeah, nga the gomba nga chu gomba ga tini lobso nangla yopi nangdun khashiz tini nga chu lobta chimo tini nangla lobchit ka nangla jana nga chu lobta chimo loma so magir ka tini yargin royala phantok yosa aris tini kati phantok yona ta tindi korla tini lobta chimo chola ti charge maumbi charge ayos.
So do you think that there are aspects or components of the monastic education system that could be incorporated into the Western university education system that would be of benefit to the personal development of students? And if so, do you know of any concrete plans in place to make these additions or changes, or to incorporate these aspects?
Meditation is a clear one now, which is a kind of practice, as you mentioned earlier, that is become a part of healthcare for the past 4 decades, and is now being extended to other uses, including education. It's used for the types of issues of mental health and stress that David mentioned earlier. I think the big challenge is to create systems, contemplative systems that are secular for public universities, and to show through scientific research that there's value, that there's lasting value in meditation. These are two big challenges to implementing meditation in a modern setting, in a modern educational setting. But yes, it's happening all over the place in universities today.
Yeah, and I would just add to that there's a lot of efforts to address the issue of compassion in higher education. And so, for example, he talked with our Dean of Nursing here about Dory Fontaine about the Compassionate Care Initiative, which is completely organized around how to cultivate and facilitate the development of compassion that allows people to care for others in a sustainable fashion. And we also heard about that today from the School of Education here, that has developed an entire curriculum for K through 5 that's, again, developed around compassion and how to facilitate the emergence of compassion in our youth and so forth, and how also to bring this into the context of supporting the training of teachers to teach our younger generations. I think we also see the attempt to develop compassion in higher education in service learning, types of learning programs that get students out there in the community and doing activity with others as a way of learning about themselves and the world. And I could continue in many different ways. So I think there's a lot of efforts to bring what we talked about in terms of compassion and compassion training and the prioritization of compassion that we see from the monasteries into higher education.
야, 드니 나랑 그 저와 타마드인 저와 타마드 요. 저와 타마드더니
That's the last question.
저와 타마드 거리지나 내가서 곰바다 롭다치 보니까 그더니 냠진다 보시니 냠진이나 빼나가서 롭다치 모고 나라 옆이 롭천 곰발라 코아티소 곰바가 나라 때서 롭치지 드니 곰바가 나라 용컨가 롭천 드니 롭다치 모고 롭마솔람 코아티소 롭다치 모고 나라 드니 롭치지 드니 그 냠진제고나 종들 드니 시나 마음비 드니 시솔라 판바요사리다 노바요사리
loma so rang su penang kumba loma teni lopto chimo nanan ru
teni lopta chimo loma chola tambo shungta tan loma chom maung bala shi chok tola do gura teni na teni shi sola phamba yo sere no pa yo
mare di nyamju shi ya ti zu teni di chichiki nang den teni pain sun teni nyamju shi ya tam teni loma so pa ya
je ta gomba ga pena gomba ga teni ti lopta khashi se lopta chimo lopta loma la chup teni lopta chimo teni nangdong kashi sa nga so gomba na la chaba chola lap tendu shina ti girkin la tenni nga so shusokla tenni phamba yo sare ta no pa yo sare.
Do you think that it would be beneficial if components of the monastic curriculum were taught in universities and components of the university curriculum were taught in monasteries, such as lessons or certain classes from monasteries were taught in the university context and the other way around, particularly university classes or lessons were incorporated in the monastic curriculum? Do you think that this would be something that would be beneficial to society?
So why don't you answer the monks in the university question, and I'll take the professors in the monastery question. It's just an idea.
It's all one question. Yeah.
Well, it's bi-directional.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to answer my answer.
You just say what you want to say.
say what you want to say.
You got it. And I'll say what I want to say.
Yeah. So my answer is about how the universities might help in monasteries. And I could see 3 ways. So one is really obvious based upon what he just said he'd like to see in the future, which is if you want scientific lessons, natural science curricular units, that's obviously something that universities could contribute back to monasteries in terms of helping develop that curriculum. A second thing is, Khenpo talked a bit about the need for some parts of the monastery learning better how to outreach to lay people, how to communicate to lay people. And I think the university could help a lot with reflecting on pedagogy. What are the different kinds of instruction? What does research tell us about their impact, both positive and negative? And how might those reflections and deliberations help monks begin to think about how to improve potentially the way they teach their own kind and the way they might adapt these lessons to teach others outside. And the third thing I would say would be having people come over there and potentially teach about other religions and other philosophies, I think could help spark new ways of thinking about their own traditions, to look at those in contrast to other people's philosophical reflection.
Okay, yeah, I had a more general answer, which was, I don't think we know yet what specific types of practices are going to be good from one, to move in some way from one institution to another. I think that the more important question that will that will develop answers, specific answers, is that both types of institutions are based on a notion of human good and social good. And we should keep that in the forefront, and we should keep on asking each other, how do you bring that into reality? And I think the conversation is more important. We're in an interesting moment right now where we get to do this. Yeah? 20 years ago, we couldn't do this very easily. And I think one of the things that it's going to take for this to be a successful conversation over the course of a decade or two, over the beyond all of our lives, is that we can't be so prideful about the absolute truths of our respective institutions. We need to be able to give up something on both sides. We're very prideful at places like modern universities. Buddhist tradition is also very prideful too. And you said earlier that Buddhism is pragmatic. It can borrow things and it can share things. And I think that both institutions need to be ready to do that across many difficult and complex borders that separate us.
So I'm going to give my two monks in the university, since you didn't mention that per se. I'm the specific one. You're the generalist.
It's fine.
That's our relationship. Yeah. So one I think is pretty obvious, which is contemplation. This is something that universities have largely defined themselves as not doing. They do in the reflective sense, to contemplate, to think deeply, to ponder deeply, but they haven't done so much of late in terms of a broad variety of practices that involve visualization in your body and attempts to foster empathy and concentration and so forth. So that's one thing that we could learn. And the second thing is retreats. And retreats, you can do many different things on retreats, but the notion of stopping business as usual and taking a weekend out, taking a week out, and engaging in immersive education, immersive learning experiences, learning that isn't just about yourself being solitary, it can also be about with other people, and the kinds of authentic communication that can come into being between different people when you're taken out of your ordinary context. You're not 4 hours together and then back to the beer, or 3 hours together and then back to a class. You're out for an entire weekend or a week. I think that's something that monasteries historically do really well, and we do really, really poorly. And even if all you do is one retreat over the course of your year-long experience as a first year, I think it can be a touchstone for really understanding your body and your mind and your possibilities and other people in very different ways that can transform the entire year. So with that, I think this has been really long. We knew it was long. That's why we did say it would be long. Well, we didn't say that per se, but we said so in the advertisement. But maybe we have 11 minutes, since you've all stayed here so long. If you want to leave, it's no problem. We have 11 minutes. If you have any questions, we could address those and then break at 7 precisely.
So this is a question for the panel, so both on the research university and the monastery. And I have two questions. So first is, ideally speaking, what do you think was the function of the time a person spent at a monastery or a research university in their personal life trajectory? So if you spent, say, 4 years as an undergrad, or 10 years or more as a grad student, what was that time supposed to mean in your personal life trajectory, or as a monk or a nun, if you spent 20 years or more? And the second is, ideally speaking, what was the function of that institution, a monastery or research university, in society? And do you think we need to rethink that function that these institutions fulfilled in society?
The first question. Yeah, I think it's the one time in life and place in life where you, on balance, you have time to think about meaning, to think about the meaning of life, to be really purple and platitudinous about it. Yeah? And that is a time that can take you through to the rest of your life. Yeah? It's really important, and it's really rare, and it's really valuable. Yeah? The second one,
For grad students?
yeah, and for graduate students, you get a lot more time. Yeah. No, you have to, then your mission is, it's reversed. If you're a graduate student, we spend so much time gaining technical skills, whether it's in the sciences or the liberal arts or whatever, but you have to become the person that makes that space real for the next generation. And that's a lot of work. It's a lot of ethical work to do that. Yeah? And you have to balance that with all the administrative challenges that come with trying to make that happen. Yeah? And that interfere directly with that happening.
I would just say to combine both of your questions into one simple response, which is too often we have created divisions between different things and said, we're that, but we're not this. And so we get very concerned about thinking the college is just becoming a transactional place where you get certain credentials that allow you to get a job or certain very pragmatic skills you then use in your professional career and so forth. And then we juxtapose that, at least in the humanities, to the kind of reflective activities that we traditionally do in the humanities. And I think this is not the right way to go. We have to collapse these two together. We have to understand that what you're going to engage in your professional life, if that isn't seen as a profound activity, then we're never going to succeed at preparing our students to bring these considerations, interpretive and ethical and so forth, into their personal lives and in their professional lives. We can't trivialize preparing people for a job by exalting our humanistic reflections, and neither can we drag those down to someone's pragmatic conception of what it means to prepare for a profession. They both have to be lifted up. And I think right now we're in an extended argument about how we're dragging everything down on both sides.
Macho mo zambolong ka tola mo mang chi shutila metse chika nala tini mlo nishijan doma sama to yo maris mo nishijan chese ta lojong su china lobchong ne ngacho ta bujur khani lojong she jagna tini lobta chi mon thar ma shin ramjum ba mathung ko bad mlo nishin lon do ndo te ngacho zambolong ka mo mang chi shutila metse chika nala tini mlo nishijan sama to yo maris doma sama to So
it is true that in the world today, if a person lives for a period of 60 years, that 20 of those are spent in the course of education, taking into account their primary, their middle school, and their university education.
Ani lojong tola tang gona ma goda murgo tingone mir shila tra go hazres do mir shila tra go jizres do mir shichbla.
Oh yes. So this question as to whether we should spend this amount of time on education or to what end it should be put is a question facing all of humanity.
Ina nga chu te tin lojong tin yang se she go da margo tin nga chu chwa nyota chimechi la tu yores tini ha ko ma so lojong tin yang rang bo se she go da margo tin nga chu chwa ti nyota chimbo yin da mayin bala tu yores nga chu pe nan chwa nyota chimbo se cherna ko da na yang go ma som chiz ya sare
It depends on how much study we need. It depends on how complexity of our society is.
Teni nga chung drowa mir shichib ka nga chung sowa tinti nyokta chimbo morgo tindi zena nga so lojong ante mambo mandus.
So if we decide that we don't need a society that is so complex, then it's okay if we don't do so much study.
Tani nga so nangchun da zena go rese korang motse chi ko tonda mari motse mambo ko tonda rete lojong go rese.
However, from the Buddhist point of view, of course, we do need this study. This study is not just something that is in respect of goals in this life, it is in respect of goals that transcend this life.
Tani nga so tani jikten ga tani ta ta so samayna na nga so jikten ga tani ta ta de rigne te so na nga so chong ka kaps lojong shini deni yar ro ne tani mar so ne tan de la thondi te samayang kortigre gre samaga ini ro gores. Aha nga so kortig ni of course ya ta nga so kortig ni tani lojong shini yang matse shi kum jig jog piner kam yang sama kortig re kirese shiyon te so lojong nga so lodra chimoni lojong yang rambo zu shi na yang ze tani di kortig thone yar lojong shini thama yang kortig re kirese.
So even if we do a great deal of study in this lifetime and we can imagine our life as one circle beginning at zero and then circling around accumulating a lot of knowledge, inevitably, however, we return to 0 point at the end of our lifetime. So the question as to whether we need so much study then in light of this is something that we can raise a lot of doubts about in respect of.
Gomba drip math patini softa chimbo drip thya mampon dor dini lamo shini shana gomba lo so ti nga so mo simkham yar ji ta tani kanshut saj jemtho la ta ta ya te go re tani softa chimmu tani ta gande jimjik ta softa chimmu lo jong ta nga so tani pamjur yar ji ndo ta tani jambalong tani distort tani ta sardan chi pa te ni kare. So tinti yenti nika de yona pe yakpori samgaduse nge samna nika de menan juk samaris ching menan juk samaris samgaduse.
As for monasteries and universities, I'm of the view that we need both. We can't afford to be without one or the other. They both have their respective strengths, things that they do better than the other. Insofar as monasteries are concerned, we could say that they are particularly strong in training people's minds in terms of self-development, development of one's mind, as well as in terms of cultivating ethical behavior and so on. Secular universities, on the other hand, are obviously very key in terms of economical and material development, developing of communications and so on. Both of these are positive and useful things, and so they are complementary, and we need them both.
If you have an extremely short question, I mean just one small question, no comment, because we are at 7 o'clock, and it has to be directed to him, and it can't take longer than 60 seconds. Okay. Those are a lot of conditions.
Let me directly ask Khenpo in Tibetan first. Khenpo's on the question. The ngatu nang shu the ngani work jiso la, dangi chije jiso shegme, bobe jiso kwarang ge nang ni kwarang jo ma top de yo wa da. Kwarang jiso kwarang bobe nang shu de bobe jiso na nyam ro ya ge. Nyam ro ma sa rembe ni la ro ya ge nyang kha yo wa. Bobe nang shu de. Ja da de nyang kha de jo ya la. 아니 강남 멍티 가서 저 강남 조제부 제목 뭐야 디나 지 사기 사당 제당 전제가 멍멍 배 직단게 넥스 멍무시는 거 봐서 제 비제발 제3루노 르글람라 시장 저가 매대 받는데 카트가 저 매대 뒤로 뒤 아니 총을 당야 당 남매의 당야가 타만지 요요 말이스. So let me translate my question. My question is so in Tibetan Buddhism. And I mean, today in Tibetan Buddhism facing a tremendous difficulty in terms of preservation. We don't know how long it will be lasted for. So there are so many things contribute to this dangerous the condition. Okay, so one thing I think the condition is about the idea of divine and the gods and the demons and those kind of and the unseen worlds. It's, it cannot really apply any logical or any reasoning, any scientific studies. But for Tibetan Buddhism, that's a very important element. So my question, Khenpo, is there a way, in order to survive in Tibetan Buddhism, right, in the future and future world, inside Tibet, I'm not talking about the world scale, and inside Tibet, can we minimize or reducing or even ignore those elements of the Tibetan Buddhism?
당내 상로 당나 시당 가서 남바가 주 캬버든 가서 되니 보바가 상가 잡고 되니 옛날 뒤나라 타단제다 되니 mam보샤게요. 배나 되니 더 질 한제 거 mam보 되니 마른더 고야 요래 야 조고야 요래 되니 거 다네 바 mam보래. 레테 옛날 당 가서 우니 전이 담바 아주 담바 말 시적한데 한 되니 먹을 시긴데 제가 야라 짜수신 적한데 안 먹을 짜수시 송마도 바 하가 시작 받은 제가 시작 한다고 하가 티 자서 시작 한다고 딘디든 통지 문도가 딘디 옛날에 시당 띵아츠도 삼바 삼로나라 딘디 요리 때메 파시 고즈나 양 mam보 셈가나라 데즈 뇨타 용사레 레테 옛날 돈 무마팅 가서 돈 무마티라 카쇼고 근데 가서 사마 미티니터 좋은 초와 무마티라 카쇼 네서 무마티라 카쇼네 레칼레기드 딘디 레고사레 코서 셈노니 컨디시나 땡에 삼난다 tumdu samyana leka leati nguni tema to balhata tindi ko thola mamboz tindi shijana tezanga chonyota yong sari samadu ta chorang ka tawa ko ndu ina tangi tindi lanjam ko sari.
So it's true that in Tibetan Buddhism, in the Tantra, for example, there's a lot of talk about gods and ghosts and the need to subjugate them or conquer them or exercise them or whatever. My feeling, however, though, when we talk about the preservation of Buddhism or the revival of Buddhism, it's people who have to do the work of reviving it. It's not the gods and ghosts, etc., who do this. So even though these may be these ghosts and gods, etc., spirits may exist in people's minds. In terms of the actual work that we undertake, it needs to be at a practical level.
Semganani pena dalha dande da tini mambo yori to so mar mepashi gozina tez kabo yin sarisi mambo sin yina nga so leka leji de zo de tini te dongu de lego ndus dongu zina jire dongu zin dongu bu ngoma nguyo kone setela tini.
So gods and ghosts and spirits, these ideas are conceptions that exist in people's minds. To get rid of these conceptions is something that would be rather difficult. In fact, the important thing is that the work that we do, that our efforts take place in the concrete realm.
So
whether or not people believe in these things or they don't believe things, this is up to them. It's no great problem. The main thing is that in terms of where we place our efforts, it should be in concrete, tangible directions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
thank you so much, and thank you to our translators.